Hello, everyone. We're going to give folk a few more minutes to join, but welcome. If you're here for the scholarship info session, you're in the right place. For those folks just joining, welcome. If you're here for the scholarship info session, you're in the right place. We're gonna go ahead and get started at 5:35, just to give folk a little bit more time to join. Hello, for folks just joining. We're gonna start at 5:35. Alrighty, it is now 5:35, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone. My name is Cristina. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the executive director of Central Valley Scholars, and today we're gonna talk about our scholarship program. And I'm very, very excited to share this information with all of you. Alrighty, and so before we get into the information we're going to share today, we want to go ahead and share land acknowledgement. This is something we do in every space that we enter, recognize the Native and Indigenous peoples that resided in the land before us. In the chat, you can figure out what Native land you currently reside on via the link provided. And I'm calling from Fresno, California, which is Yokuts territory. As I share these following words, I really encourage all of you to close your eyes, listen to the language, and listen to the words I'm about to share. I want to take a moment to acknowledge where we are, that the earth below our homes and below our feet is Yokuts territory and has belonged to and been tended by the Yokuts people for hundreds of thousands of years. When white settlers arrived to what we otherwise know as the United States, they enacted genocide and theft of the land, labor, and resources, attempting to wipe out indigenous communities entirely. It is important to acknowledge the land we are living on and to recognize our history and relationship to the ongoing legacy of colonization in the United States. And to also recognize that the Yokits people are still here and through resistance and resilience are still on the front line struggling for land rights, collective liberation, and an end to white supremacy. I invite you to take a moment to think about your relationship to this land and its history. Let's let those who have come before us in the struggle inform us on where we are going, so that together we can reimagine and collectively build a world in which we are all free. Again, in the chat is a link to discover what native land you currently reside on. Alrighty, now to share a little bit about Central Valley Scholars for folk who may not have heard of us yet. And so Central Valley Scholars is a community-based organization led by first-generation queer students of color with the mission of creating accessible pathways towards higher education for historically underserved communities in the Central Valley. Our strategy focuses on creating critical, conscious, and realistic perspectives on higher education, with an emphasis on how systemic forms of oppression affect underserved students' academic trajectories. And we foster equity by providing workshops, scholarships, and mentorship or themtorship, and specialized programming for students to achieve the education they deserve. And so beyond just the scholarships, we have specialized programming, we do workshops, we do all of these different things to help achieve this mission. So if you haven't already, definitely check those out. And speaking of additional resources, we do want to take advantage that y'all are here today and share to apply to the mentorship program. And what the mentorship program is, it's created by and for first generation undocumented and Black students in the San Joaquin Valley to be supported and celebrated during their undergraduate application process. This comes with a $500 scholarship, a free laptop and Wi-Fi hotspot, 4 college application fee waivers, a personal them tour, 8 hours of free therapy, and participation in our cohort-based support group and peer learning community over the course of 10 months. Yeah, and so in the chat, we're going to give y'all the link to our mentorship program. That in that link, you can learn more and also have the link to apply. If you know any high school seniors or any community college students ready to start their application process to undergraduate universities, this is definitely the program for them. Now going into the agenda for today. So what are we going to be talking about during this info session? And so firstly, we want to talk about the history and purpose of our scholarship application. We're also going to break down our scholarship opportunities for y'all and other information. We're going to talk about our requirements, structure, and give you tips on what you should be including in your applications. We're going to do a quick overview of Good Grants. Good Grants is the application software we use. And if you're applying to our scholarships, it's an application software you'll have to navigate. We're going to talk about accessibility and accommodations. And at the end of this presentation, we're going to have an open question and answer portion. And so you can use the Q&A feature that you see on the webinar to ask your questions, but just note that we won't get to them until the end of the presentation. Also, this info session will be recorded and it's going to be published on our scholarship website and also on our YouTube channel. Now going over our scholarship history and mission. And so to go over this, I actually want to go to our scholarship announcement letter and read through the story together. If you haven't looked at this already, please do. We laid out all the information you would need, including links, eligibility quizzes, all of that stuff in here. But yeah, I want to go ahead and read through our scholarship program journey. As we embark on the 4th year of our scholarship program, we continue to reflect, renew, and embrace the beauty and power that comes from a painful history. At the founding of our scholarship fund was a mission to bring value to stories most dismissed in educational spaces, not because they lack potential or knowledge, but due to educational systems' merit-based selection practices that are rooted in elitism, white supremacy culture, and a myth of meritocracy. As shared by our friends at Joy as Resistance, white supremacy culture is the water we swim in and trains each one of us to internalize harmful attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors. And we have a link there to learn more about white supremacy culture. Historically, scholarship applications have required students to prove their value through GPAs, letters of recommendation, and written responses justifying their adherence to English grammar. But at Central Valley Scholars, we believe every student is equally worthy, deserving, and has all the power to change the world. So instead, we've created a scholarship curriculum that is centered on storytelling. And these stories are powerful. Every year, students across the valley open their hearts to us and share their equally painful, beautiful, and enlightening lenses on the world, unearthing the questions: what does it mean to be a queer person in the Central Valley? How has my Black identity brought me joy and strength? How has my disability shaped my identity and created a radical perspective of what our community can look like? We learned so much from these students. We learned so much from their stories. And it has become so vividly clear that knowledge is not only gained through course curriculums and honor roll lists, knowledge is also gained through lived experiences. Our scholarship fund intentionally reserves opportunities for students most oppressed in our communities. And through a holistic review of the individual and system-wide obstacles students face in applying to scholarships, we've created a truly accessible scholarship program that allows all students, especially those who are oppressed, to have equal opportunities to fund their higher education. And on the article, we also included quotes and feedback from students that we received last year. And not only do we yearly revise and edit our scholarship program to meet the needs and feedback of our students, but we also increase our scholarship funding every year. And for the 2023 scholarship application cycle, we're proud to offer $30,000 in scholarships to Central Valley students and are eager for the learnings, love, and power we will gain from our collective stories. And just for some insight here, we started our scholarship program in 2020, awarding $5,000, and have slowly increased as we've continued the program throughout the years. Now heading back to the presentation. The next thing I'd like to share is a scholarship overview. And so again, we're offering $30,000 in scholarships for Central Valley students with the following identities. So it's going to be a first generation college student, undocumented students, LGBTQIA plus students, Black students, students with disabilities, student parents, women of color, and justice impacted students. And each of these scholarships comes with a cash prize of $1,500. Students are welcome to apply to all the scholarships that they qualify for, but please note that you can only be selected for a maximum of 2 scholarships. I also want to share that one applicant across all of our scholarships will be selected for the 2023 Inspire Award, which comes with a cash prize of $6,000 and involves an article, documentary, and various press releases. So by automatically applying to one of these scholarships, you're going to be considered for the Inspire Award as well, unless you opt out, which is a no in the application. I also want to share that our scholarships are open to students completing/entering vocational, community college, or undergraduate universities. Last year, one of our scholarship recipients was going to Paul Mitchell. And so just something to note there. And also our scholarship applications center identity, need, and potential for growth, deliberately selecting students that are often dismissed from other educational institutions. And we're going to share more about our goals in a little bit. Alrighty, so what are our scholarship goals? What are we trying to achieve here with this program? And so one of the first things we want to achieve is access. And this is something that you'll see across a lot of different higher education institutions or organizations in which we want to increase access to higher education for historically underserved students in the Central Valley through direct financial support. right? College costs money and rent, right? Housing, all of these things. And through this scholarship, we hope to support students in accessing higher education. We also have a goal of empowerment, and we want to empower all students to make their educational dreams a reality and enter a cohort of scholarship winners who are believed in, supported, and admired based off their stories, not GPAs. This piece is really important to us. And as I get into the structure of our curriculum, we want all applicants, if you don't receive the scholarship, which is fortunately we can't award everyone who applies, we want you to leave with the sense of empowerment and belonging that you deserve to be in the spaces you're currently in and more. There's also critical consciousness. And within critical consciousness, we want students to reflect on their identities, how systemic forms of oppression have affected their academic trajectories, and unearth the high level of intelligence that emerges from their experiences. And this critical consciousness piece is really important to us. Our curriculum is designed for you to reflect on, what does it mean to be a woman of color? What does it mean to be a queer person? What does it mean to be undocumented? All of our questions and curriculum are designed for you to reflect and really think about how these things have impacted you on an individual and system-wide level. And lastly, we're here to change the narrative. We want to change the narrative of the ideal student and encourage all other educational institutions to do the same, right? Oftentimes, scholarship recipients have valedictorian statuses, have full rights to colleges, have all of their things figured out and done. And that's not always the case for people who are oppressed, right? There's a lot of things that we have to go through on our day-to-day basis that affect our ability to get an A in a class or to turn in a paper on time. And we want to showcase that there's so much more knowledge and power that's held within lived experiences that we really need to uplift and we really need to highlight. I want to go into a little bit about what students are saying. And so just in the additional comments section of our scholarship application last year, we saw great feedback that our curriculum was working to achieve these goals. And here are some direct quotes from some of these applicants. So one student says, "Thank you for this scholarship opportunity. I haven't been able to reflect on being a woman of color before. These questions have brought me new insight on who I am and who I want to be. Thank you for allowing me to have a voice when it felt like I was silenced for so long." Another student shares, "As an undocumented student, I want to say thank you for giving me this opportunity, for making me feel that I am welcomed in this country. By not leaving or excluding undocumented students of scholarship opportunities like this one. Thank you." Another student shares, "I thank you so much for the opportunity. Answering these questions gave me the opportunity to reflect over my life. I wouldn't change any of it for the world." And lastly, another student shares, "Thank you for providing such scholarship that brings awareness to personal identities. It is rare to find scholarship opportunities that bring awareness for individuals like myself. Other scholarship programs should focus on important characteristics of the individual that define who they are as a person, rather than attempting to discover the ideal candidate." Alrighty, next I'm going to talk a little bit about our scholarship requirements. And so something to note is that each scholarship application is going to have its own individual identity-based requirements. For example, in order to apply to the Justice Impacted Scholarship, you have to meet the definition of what we define as a justice impacted person. However, generally speaking, our requirements are as follows. And so first, you must be enrolled at a community college, vocational school, or undergraduate university during the fall semester/quarter of 2023. You do not have to attend a university or community college in the Central Valley. However, you must have graduated from a high school, continuation school, or GED school in the San Joaquin Valley by August 31st, 2023. Yeah, and so again, if you graduated from, let's say, Fresno, a school in Fresno Unified, and you currently go to UC Davis, you would still qualify for our scholarships. Something to note as well is that students currently enrolled or transitioning to a vocational community college or undergraduate university are eligible to apply. However, graduate students and people who have not completed their bachelor's or people who have completed their bachelor's degree do not qualify for our scholarships. And if you would like to check if you qualify, please complete our eligibility quiz. We inputted that link in the chat as well for y'all. I know it's a question we get all the time. Can graduate students apply? Can graduate students apply? Unfortunately, we're not there yet, but it is a goal of ours to get there in the future. I also want to share that applications are due Thursday, June 1st, 2023 at 59 p.m. Pacific time. And they're gonna be due June 8th at 11:59 p.m. Pacific time for students with disabilities or anyone who completed our accommodations request form, which we'll share more about later. I want to share also that inclusivity and accessibility are paramount values within our organization. And as such, we have made an effort to make our scholarship applications as accessible as possible. And so in our applications, we do not ask for Social Security. We hold no citizenship prerequisite. We also don't have a grade point minimum or GPA requirement. And we do not ask for a letter of recommendation for any of our scholarships. This was something we reflected on a lot, and based on our scholarship mission and the purpose, a letter of recommendation from someone isn't going to necessarily really support us in the decision-making process when we're deciding scholarship recipients. However, yeah, no GPA requirements for this year. And also letters of recommendation. We also realized that letters of recommendation can be really detrimental and can serve as another hurdle to get through when you're trying to apply to scholarships and you're still in school and you work 2 other jobs. And so because of that, we axe that requirement. Alrighty, next I want to talk a little bit about our scholarship structure. And so this is going to be specific to all of our applications except the first generation scholarship application that has a similar structure, but it's divided by 2 narrative and reflective questions. But generally speaking, all of our other applications are organized by 3 250-word responses and 1 150-word response. And the questions that are asked focus on the following. And so the first question is going to ask you to reflect on identity. And so here we have students reflect on their identities, specifically when they began to understand this part of themselves and what their identity means to them. The second question is going to focus on challenge. And so here students reflect on how systemic forms of oppression related to their identity have impacted their academic and life trajectories. Next, the third question is going to ask in a form of empowerment. And here we want students to discover the high level of intelligence that comes from their experiences and begin to find the beauty in their struggles. And lastly is an advocacy question. And so here students advocate for their selection by sharing how their story relates to our scholarship mission and educational equity overall. For this last equity question, it's shared across all of our scholarship applications. You're welcome to duplicate your answer to that fourth question for other scholarship applications as well, if you're applying to more than one. Alrighty, I want to share a little bit about how we select recipients. And so based off our rubric, we're going to look at your responsiveness. We're going to consider the intention that was put into the application, the time, and also the legibility. And the legibility is just a small piece of our consideration. However, to take a more holistic approach, our scholarship committees are also considering the following. And so they're going to consider your identities, not just your identities for that scholarship, but your identities overall. When I get through the Good Grants application portal, I'll show you there's an applicant details question in which we get all of this information. But things that we'll consider is your age, your race, your gender, and if you're part of the following communities, if you're a first generation college student, undocumented, student parent, justice impacted, person with disabilities, or LGBTQIA plus person. We're also going to consider your socioeconomic status. And so this is determined by household income and household size. And then we're also going to consider your student status. So if you're a current high school, GED school, continuation, community college, vocational, or undergraduate student. And of course, an undergraduate student is going to be at a different writing level than a student that just got out of high school. And so it's something we consider when we're finalizing recipients. Now, here are just some general tips. I know applying to scholarships is so intimidating, especially when the scholarship application is about you and your life and your story. And so here are just some general tips that we share, not particular to our scholarships, but scholarship writing overall. And so one of the first things is that writing is a process. And so really give yourself the necessary time to create drafts and have others review your responses. Writing it once and submitting it is not something that we suggest, but if that works for you, that works for you. We want to share as well to not be afraid to be vulnerable. There's a beauty in vulnerability. And if you're willing to open up, it can give our readers a better understanding of who you are. We also want you to use your authentic voice. The point of personal statements is to get to know the real you and focus on yourself and your experiences. Don't try to put a persona that doesn't accurately reflect you. We're not like super stern on like grammar or things like that. And so just another thing to note as well. And I also want to encourage all of y'all to write from a lens of power and strength. All of you carry such high levels of intelligence and skills that have allowed you to transcend barriers. We're not pobrecitos, we're not asking for help. You are powerful, you are so wise, you are so incredibly intelligent, and you're showcasing that in your application. Alrighty, and so I want to give just a quick live tutorial on Good Grants. And so when you log into our application, you're going to see something like this. If you haven't registered, please register. Otherwise, you log in. And so as you're putting in that information, you'll land on a landing page like this. There's all the links and stuff that we're sharing in the chat are available there as well as in our scholarship website. And so fast forwarding here, there we go. And so you're going to see at the bottom when you scroll down, there's two applications. One of them is for titled the scholarships application. That's going to have all of our scholarships. And then there's the student with disability scholarship application. And so if you're applying to that one, you would go to that application portal. And the reason we had to do this is because there's two separate deadlines. And so now going through it, so there's going to be 5 components to the scholarship application. The first, you're just deciding which scholarship you would like to apply for, and then you input your name. Then next is going to ask in regards to eligibility, and so there's going to be the same eligibility questions that we have on our eligibility quiz there, but for the specific scholarship. Next, it's going to go into applicant details, and so you fill all of these things out. Next, it's going to be the questions. And so the questions is really the core of our application. And you're going to see a description of the scholarship, which can also be found on our scholarship website. Next, you're going to see all the questions. And if you see here, there's the questions, and there's also that little question mark right here. And so when you hover on that, it's going to tell you the goal of our scholarship of this question. And so when we designed the curriculum on the identity, challenge, and empowerment, we had a goal for each question, and we wanted to share this with applicants. That way y'all have a better understanding of what to submit in that question. And so definitely read through those because they're super helpful. And then lastly, once you answer all the questions, there's just the confirmation questions. You input your first and last name and you're ready to submit. And yeah, and so hopefully y'all find that a pretty simple process. All right, last thing, and then we're gonna go into the Q&A, and is accessibility and accommodations. And we understand that students who confront systemic forms of oppression face various obstacles in their ability to apply to scholarships. And we would like to support and accommodate our students as much as possible. And so the following are accommodations we have available for any applicant who may need them. And so one thing to note is that we are allotting for a 1-week extension. And so we offer 1-week extension for students with disabilities or students facing difficult circumstances to submit their scholarship applications. And to apply for an extension, please complete our accommodations request form. And you have to complete it by May 18th, 2023 at 11:59 p.m. Pacific time. Please note that the Students with Disabilities Scholarship already has a 1-week extension implemented in the application. However, if you are applying to multiple scholarships and would need a 1-week extension for those applications, please complete our accommodations request form by the aforementioned deadline. We also are adding language accessibility. And so in reflection of the learnings from our 2022 Inspire Wordee, students are welcome to submit application responses in a language other than English. However, before doing so, students must complete our accommodations request form. Applicants submitted in a different language other than the English that did not receive an accommodation approval may be interpreted at the selection committee's discretion for consideration. Yeah, and on that accommodations request form, you can also list any other accommodation needs that you may have, and we'll support you as best as possible. And so the link to that form is in the chat. Alrighty, y'all, that concludes this info session. Just some other resources again. On our scholarship website, you can find the link to apply, individual scholarship descriptions and requirements. You'll find the recording to this training or info session. We have our FAQs there as well. And then we also have our scholarship terms and conditions. Read through our scholarship announcement letter if you haven't through already. And also go through the scholarship eligibility quiz, and you can utilize our accommodations request form for any accommodations you may need. And if you scan that QR code, it'll take you to our website. And also you can email us at scholarships@centralvalleyscholars.org if you have any questions or need any support with your scholarships. But yeah, this concludes the info session. And now I'm opening it up, or my presentation in the info session. And now I'm opening it up to y'all if you have any questions. So yeah, please use the Q&A feature to ask a question, and I can go ahead and answer it. I see a question here asking about the income considerations that we're looking at, or what year's income are we looking at? So we're going to look at your 2022 income. There. Also, something to know in regards to income, we don't have any like requirement to apply. It's going to be ultimately at the scholarship committee's discretion how they use the income status when they're finalizing recipients. I see a question of, is there a GPA requirement? There is not. Is there an age limit? There's not technically an age limit, but you have to meet those other requirements to apply. Any other questions? So I see a question here that says, I got my associate's degree in high school and I'm currently an undergraduate student. Just checking if I can apply. And so as long as you'll still be an undergraduate student in the fall semester / quarter of 2023, and you meet those other requirements, you should apply, or you should be able to qualify still. I would take that eligibility quiz just to confirm. I see another question. If we do not get it this year, can we apply again? If you're not selected for a scholarship this year, you can definitely reapply next year. The only way you won't be able to reapply is if you're selected or if you no longer meet our requirements. I see another question that says, on average, how many are given a scholarship every year? And so our organization is still very new. This is our fourth year in existence. And as we've grown throughout the years and received more funding and more opportunities, we've increased scholarship recipients. I believe this year there's a possibility for 18 students to be selected. Something to note as well, per each identity-based scholarship, we select 2 students. The next question around how many students apply to the scholarship. And so we have a lot of different scholarship applications. I will share that our first generation scholarship is always the most impacted. We received, I think last year was like around 100 to 150, somewhere in between there. I would say around 50 per scholarship. That's usually our goal, is to receive 50 applications. I know, for example, like the Students with Disability Scholarship, the Student Parent Scholarship, and the Justice Impacted Scholarship historically have not received as many applications as the others. Yeah, I'm getting a question here asking about the mentorship program. And it asks, can you explain more about who can apply for the mentorship program? So the mentorship program is reserved for first generation undocumented and Black students in the San Joaquin Valley who will be applying to an undergraduate university starting the fall 2023 application cycle. So for example, there's like a high school senior who is entering their senior year in fall 2023 that will be applying to colleges during that time. They qualify. If you're a community college student or someone who took a gap and are looking to start your undergraduate application process starting in fall 2023, this is who the program is most designed for. I hope that helped. Any other questions? I have a question here that says, who reads our application? So we select scholarship readers that meet the identity of each scholarship. Um, if you don't qualify for our scholarships, you can apply to be a scholarship reader. It comes with an $150 honorarium. And yeah, and so we go through a process with scholarship readers the same way we do with selecting scholarship recipients. And so it's not myself, it's not anyone on our team necessarily. We lean on volunteers and folk in our community to support us. I see a question on if there's any GPA requirements for the mentorship program. There is not. We don't have any GPA requirements across any of our services. I see another question here regarding the mentorship program. I'm a first generation student. Would I be able to apply? Yes, you would be able to apply as long as you're applying to undergraduate universities during the fall of 2023. And by undergraduate universities, we mean like UCs, like UC Berkeley, UC Davis, Stanford, Harvard, Fresno State, all these other undergraduate universities. I see another question of who can volunteer. And I believe that's for the scholarship readers. You can go ahead and visit our website, centralvalleyscholars.org/join us for more information on that. I see a question of how many mentorship opportunities are available. If this relates to the mentorship program, we select 10 students for that program. Alrighty, loving the questions, loving the questions. Is there any other questions that y'all have? I see a question of how much is awarded per student. We offer $1,500 per each scholarship recipient. If you were to be selected for both two scholarships, that would mean that you get $3,000. And if you're selected for the Inspire Award, that comes with a $6,000 cash prize. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Natalie. Any other questions? We'll wait here for a minute or so. Otherwise, we might be good. Again, check out that scholarship website. Check out our scholarship announcement letter. All the information you have, all the information that you may be requesting should be on there. And shall there be any other questions that you have, you're welcome to email us at scholarships@centralvalleyscholars.org. And so I'll give folk a couple more minutes to ask their questions, but otherwise we might be done. I see one more question. When are the recipients of the scholarships going to be announced? The recipients will end of September 2023. I'll leave it there. So by September, you should know whether or not you were selected. And we make sure to email all applicants. Any final thoughts, questions? Alrighty, y'all. So I think we might be good to go. Again, if anything else comes up, please email scholarships@centralvalleyscholars.org. Otherwise, thank you all so much for joining us today. And I look forward to reading through your applications. Thank y'all so much. Bye-bye.